Being single is an absolute nightmare, and let's let's talk about it. Let's get into it. Hello.
Hey, cutie.
What's the worst part about being single?
Aw, man. Yes.
I'm so sorry.
Okay, so when you have a group of friends, you can always talk to them, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's always things that you can't talk about that are a little bit more personal, or you know are going to bring the mood down. You just don't want to bother them, so you don't have that outlet. I believe that's the worst part.
Hello? Hello?
Oh, hi.
What's the worst part about being single?
Okay, wow, really? I am so touch-starved. If I'm hanging out with friends, I cling on to them. I love hugs, but I never get hugs. I go to sleep hugging my pillow at night. That's really embarrassing, but I do.
Hey. All right. What's the worst part about being single?
Man, what the hell? Why you asking me these questions? Man, I say the worst part of being single is the lonely nights. The single life of a bachelor can be very lonely. Even though you can, have many friends, you still don't got that backbone. You want that backbone and with that person that just that holds you up in life. That's my worst part.
Being single is the worst. It's terrible and lonely and a dead end. It's synonymous with self-doubt, insecurities, and heartache. These are things I truly used to believe. So much that I opened myself up to some pretty desperate people because I myself was desperate. I was going through some old footage this week and came across this gem from 2017. I was living with Ken in Edmonton and going through a bit of a rough patch. I handed him the camera and started talking. Okay, so I'm gonna tell a story about and you can't freak out.
What? You haven't told me some shit?
No, it's just But I think we need a little context here. In 2016, I met someone who displayed to me nothing but red flags. She stood me up on our first 2 dates. She required constant attention and validation, and she had really unhealthy relationships with her friends and family. But she made me laugh and made me feel welcomed and cared for. She was thoughtful and incredibly smart. When she was speaking to you, you felt like you were the only person in the world. But she could never be fully transparent with me, open. She hid a lot of stuff from me. I can still remember one of the last times I saw her. She said she was leading me to doors in our relationship that she knew would never open, and was doing it intentionally so I would stick around. Even after we ended, those words stuck with me for a long time. I had to go move my grandfather's stuff as he had that bad fall. We were supposed to hang out that weekend and she was really upset about it because she was going to be alone that weekend and she gets pretty freaked out when she's alone. Her mom was away. When we first drove out, I called Brian and I got him to pick up some of her favorite stuff. And I directed her address because he'd never been there. And then I had Brian on the phone. And then Brian had me on the phone and the stuff. And then he went to the door and he handed them both over to her. And I was like, I'm here, don't worry. That was really good for her. We drove through the night all the way there. When I wasn't driving, me and my dad took turns. I'd be on the phone with her. And she had this fantasy of owning this private island. And on this island, she had a bunch of goats. And she named the goats. Each one had a letter of the alphabet, A through Z. She had to decide the names, so we spent an hour picking out the names for all these goats. And it was this time in my life where I was really vulnerable and open to someone. I don't think I blame her a lot for how it went down and how it ended up being really awful and just toxic. Because obviously she was dealing with stuff that I had no control of. But I still don't know how to get to that point of if someone's showing attention or affection, I'm question it and I get really defensive and self-destructive and I'll self-sabotage relationships. And it's really shitty and I know that I do it and it's awful and I wish that I didn't. And yeah, I'm working on it and it's gonna get better. It's getting better, I think.
Jesus Christ.
Jesus Christ, indeed. And I thought this way for a long time. I perceived every ounce of attention and affection as false. I'd get into some flirty DMs with someone, they'd call me cute or nice, and I'd be like, nah, I'd shut that down so quick. because there was no way they were being open or genuine, and I didn't want to go through that again, which is no way to live. I think the hardest thing to do while being single, perhaps the most difficult thing, is to remain open. And I think it comes down to a pretty simple idea, a concept I've fostered and dwelled with, which led me to some really healthy friendships and relationships since. Like Rachel. We also met in 2016, and she knows this concept very well.
Am I supposed to look at you or the camera?
Whatever you're comfortable with.
Okay.
How did we meet?
This is one of my favorite stories. I tell people
Really?
a lot. Yes. Whenever anyone's like, who's Brad? And I'm like, Brad is this guy I met on Tinder. Brad asked me to go to the trestle with him for our first date, for our first hang. I don't know why I didn't think getting into some guy's car that I didn't know.
You were very brave.
To go into the woods with him seemed like a good idea, but I was in first year university, so, you know. And yeah, we hung out. We went to the trestle. I remember this so clearly. Brad messaged me, was like, hey, you're sick. Wasn't expecting anything because he's a gentleman, he's great. And I was like, yeah, totally get the friend vibes. And he was like, yes, friend vibes, let's do it. And then we've stayed friends ever since.
I was definitely shielding some feelings there. I was like, oh yeah, I also totally feel the friends.
I don't know, it's a good story.
Basically, I'm making a video about being single.
Yes, what a great time.
What's the balance between looking for the best in your significant other while also prioritizing like your own well-being and like not making excuses for someone else? Does that make sense?
Yes, and that's something I wish I was better at. Like, I don't think you can do it if your partner is not also doing it, and that's like being in a healthy relationship. But I think it's about being honest about where you're at and having your partner be honest about where they're at and how much support you can give each other. You should be working towards making each other's lives better. And if sometimes that means you give 60% and someone else gives 40, that's just the way it is. But you can't always be the one giving the 60 and them never like giving you that much. You can't always give. There has to be some point where you're the 40, you know?
I do.
Does that make any sense? Does that answer your question?
It does. How do you be content and single?
Oh God. It's so cheesy, but I think it really just comes down to one thing, which is appreciating yourself. And I say appreciating because sometimes, especially when you're alone, it's hard to love yourself because you're not getting affirmation from people, but you really have to appreciate who you are in your good times and your bad times. If all you did was get out of bed, hell yeah, you got out of bed. Or like you took a mental health day and didn't get out of bed, fuck yeah, you did that for yourself. And appreciate who you are in those moments, because that's where you'll find, hopefully where you'll find the love for yourself. And you gotta be gentle with yourself.
Amen.
Yeah, that's how I think you'd be content.
Thanks, Rachel.
Welcome. Thank you.
Be gentle to yourself. Be kind to yourself. By choosing to see the best in others, I often ignored these huge red flags. I let things go uncontested, seeking to assume the best in others, which I still believe in, giving people the benefit of the doubt. People make mistakes, but that doesn't necessarily reflect their inherent value. It's about balancing their value with your own. And the only true way to know your value is to spend time with yourself. What's the best part about being single?
Best part about being single, which I don't know if it's really a best part, but it's just like the responsibility. You don't really have responsibility to anybody. You can do whatever the hell you want. It's the freedom. But like, you know, it can be nice to have that freedom.
When you realize how much time you have now to do things you really like.
Like focus on you, kinda.
Yeah. You're like, oh, I forgot I like to work out. And then you work out and you're like, dude, I'm fucking huge.
I love it.
Shit slaps.
Yeah, relationships aren't. I know I just complained about being single, but I don't really care about relationships too much. I'm fine with like the friends that I have now and, you know, just with myself. I like being single.
Get to know you. Learn about yourself, your passions, drives, interests. It sounds dumb, and hear me out, it sounds so dumb, but date you, you know? Treat you right. Set your standards for how you should be treated down the road. Okay, I know, like, the single life can be lonely, but it's also chill as hell once you realize you've had the best company the whole time. It honestly took me years to learn that, but trust me, as soon as you figure it out, the single life just becomes life, not defined by who I'm with, but by who I am. And that'll do wonders for your self-confidence. Like, damn, just ask me, I'm a catch. And I know it. And you are too. And I hope you know that. Hey guys, thanks for watching. Trying out some new type of content here. I really had fun making this. And also we're doing some merch giveaway. So leave a comment, tell me what you liked, tell me what you didn't like. If you didn't like it, all feedback. We're looking for all types of feedback here. And I'll be selecting a few comments at random and sending out some free merch. So I got some extra merch from the first drop, so I thought I'd pass along to you guys. But again, guys, thanks for watching. Tap that like button, subscribe. I'll see you soon. And thanks for tuning in.